It's called Because It's Just and Right, the untold backstory of the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. We're happy to bring in co-authors Farley Weiss and Leonard Grunstein. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Farley, I want to begin with you. The book tells the story of the Jerusalem Embassy Act of 1995, which I understand you helped craft that bill. It passed by an overwhelming majority in Congress, but then it took 2 more decades before Jerusalem had an official embassy. What took so long, and what finally pushed it over the finish line?
What took so long was that the President Clinton opposed the legislation. It passed 93-5 over his opposition and became law without his signature because of the overwhelming support in Congress. But none of the presidents wanted to overcome international opposition to it and move the embassy until President Trump showed enormous courage and withstood the enormous pressure from the international community and the false threats of terrorism from inside his own defense secretary and Secretary of State, and made the right decision, the just and right decision, to recognize Jerusalem and move the embassy to Jerusalem.
He was laser focused, and there's an old saying, only Nixon could go to China, and a lot of people said only Trump could make this move. Now, Leonard, you put a lot of time researching this book and looking over a lot of records. What was it about President Trump that he was able to do what so many had claimed they wanted to do but failed?
He brought a fresh approach to foreign policy, and he assembled a very good team that included David Friedman and others. And unlike the establishment in the State Department, which was married to its own corporate memory of basically saying Israel stood in the way of America in the Middle East, totally wrong. It arose in part because of the Arabists who thought that Israel was an issue. I remember even as a student in college, one of the foreign policy officers taught the course, and he took a liking to me. And he said, Len, why don't you do a position paper? So I did a position paper. It was on the closing of the Suez Canal and how it made sense to open it. I was pretty good at math, so I went through all the statistics. And I came back to him and I said, well, it really doesn't matter as much to America as it does to Europe, but our allies in Europe can certainly use it. And he turned to me and he goes, but Len, wouldn't it be better if Israel didn't exist? Now, I do not believe he was an anti-Semite, but it was part of the Kool-Aid that everyone drank at the State Department, and it was so in the time of Truman. And what's amazing, it's almost uncanny, the meeting in Truman's office and the meeting in Trump's office were almost the same characters spouting the same thoughts. And in all those years, they hadn't evolved in order to realistically look at what's going on. Trump had that ability, and he changed the Middle East, and the result of the Abraham Accords, etc. That's amazing compared to the way it was.
Well, Leonard, you took me right where I wanted to go, because not just me, your liberty-loving Latino, but Alan Dershowitz, we have both been equally concerned over the rise of anti-Semitism from the American left. How concerned are both of you? I want to ask this question of both of you, and we'll start with you, Lenny. That the Biden regime, who refuses to even meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that Joe Biden and his regime might undo all the good work done by President Trump?
Well, they're certainly trying. And a lot of it is ideologically driven instead of realistically looking how we can create a nexus where there is an enlightened self-interest. It's amazing how when people from disparate backgrounds get together and see that they could do better together than apart, how well it works in practice. And the Trump team is able to craft that interest and show people how they, by enlightened self-interest, especially with the sponsorship of the U.S., things could improve for everyone. And that's what happened. Now, ideologues
Mr.
find
Weiss,
it difficult.
yes. Yeah, Len, let me get to Mr. Weiss in here because I'm running out of time. I only got about a minute left. So Farley, how concerned are you over this hostility this current regime, the Biden regime, has toward Israel, and that they're working to undermine all the good work that President Trump and his team did?
Very concerned. You know, we have not seen any more countries join the Abraham Accords. That was an amazing achievement of the Trump administration. And with the Biden administration rollout of their anti-Semitism policy, it seems to have left out the important issue of Zionism, anti-Zionism supporting the destruction of the state of Israel as being anti-Semitic. And when you had that CUNY commencement speaker spouting off such anti-Semitic comments, anti-Israel comments, the Biden administration has been silent, whereas President Trump did a big, I was there for the signing of his legislation to protect Jewish students and pro-Israel students on college campuses, and they've have no protection now under the Biden administration, the way they've not protected the rise of anti-Semitism and how the Jewish students and pro-Israel students are being harassed at college campuses.
Yeah, Rashida Tlaib taking heat, too, for mischaracterizing the latest offensive in the West Bank by Israel, because she's completely lying about what Israel's doing, but that's what the squad does. Leonard Grunstein and Farley Weiss, gentlemen, thank you for the visit. Appreciate that. Coming